What's going on, GameLeapers? It is the Cum, and in today's video, right, I'm going to be giving you a tip for each of these broken champions. I'm not going to tell you guys, well, I might do actually, why these champions are OP, okay, because I'm sure most of us will know at the moment, but I'm actually going to try to help you out. Like, I want these videos to be informative, where you actually leave them thinking, I've become a better League of Legends player. Like, that's what I want. I know I'm the nut coach. I know that I can coach people to tier climbs in like a week or two, so I'm going to try to give you tips on each of these champions and maybe even the roles that actually help you improve, okay? Now, if you do actually want, you know, kind of like access to my coaching sessions, I guess, or if you just want access to a library of content that our challenger players and coaches are, you know, just like adding to daily, then make sure you check out the GameLeap website, GameLeap.com, in the description and comment section. I cannot urge you guys enough to do this if you do actually want to improve significantly in a short period of time. That is all you have to do. You just have to get signed up. That's it. And you can join thousands of your fellow summoners to improving at League of Legends and peaking on the Rift. So yeah, let's get into the 15 most broken champions. Let's start by talking about the best 4 AD carries. And yes, there's 4 out of 15 champions in this video are AD carries. The first of these is Jinx, who's getting some big buffs in 13.5, so the buff to your attack speed ratio in particular is going to be huge. Now, for Jinx in the bot lane, right, the actual tip here is to get used to swapping between your rockets and minigun to exert pressure. Way too many new Jinx players, or inexperienced Jinx players, I guess, will just kind of like stand in lane waiting for something to happen, you know? But you can actually exert really good pressure yourself by swapping between your minigun and rockets, particularly your rockets, because they give you extra range and also splash damage. So if the enemy AD carry is standing too close to their minions, you can hit the minions and hit the enemy AD carry in the process as well. It's just a very good kind of like tip to do. It'll exert pressure, so think about that when you're playing Jinx. But next patch 13.5, I honestly think she'll be picked and banned because she'll be so good. Now moving on, we have Twitch. Now as Twitch, you're one of the best solo queue champions, right, because of your invisibility, and at the moment because of the buff to Blade of the Rune King for ranged champions, the extra on-hit damage been huge for Twitch. As Twitch, it's really annoying, right? Probably the biggest cuck is actually going to be your support, funnily enough. So what I want you to do, and what I mean is, I want you to try to control your support, not to give away your position when you're stealthing, because it's so annoying, right? Like the enemy AD carry might be farming the mid wave in the mid to late game, and you're stealthing in and you're ready to assassinate them, and your support just runs straight at them, and the enemy AD carry is like, oh, obviously Twitch is next to him, so they run off, and you don't get a kill. And then you spam ping, and then you argue for the next 10 minutes. So try to control your support by pinging them back so the enemy doesn't get suspicious. This way you can actually come out of your stealth, praying and praying. Now, Zary, I know she's getting nerfed and her Blade Caller is copying 2 nerfs in 13.5, and these will mean something. Your win rate is going to decrease, but the champion, because the attack speed buffs kind of recently and they're getting rescinded in 13.5, you're still having all that power. I still think she'll be very strong, especially when she gets into very quick blades. But one tip here, once you have Gale Force, remember guys, you can use the active, the Cloudburst active, to reposition to land your feathers. So you might have 3 feathers in one position and the enemy champion is standing just a little bit to the side of them. You can E and then Gale Force and they will get rooted by that animation. This is a really cool tip. It's also really useful as well, just for like any situation. If you need to reposition just to land your feathers, if you're escaping, if you're even like looking for an engage, trying to nuke the enemy AD carry or whoever it is, it's a great tip. So keep this in mind when you do get your mythic. Now, the final AD carry is Zary. And I know lots of people think you have to pick Zary with Lulu or Yumi, some attack speed buff. Honestly, like, you don't have to. The great thing about like an engage support meta for Zary is that it creates time and space for you to get stacking, right? And as long as your positioning is good as Zary, you should be sweet. And that's why her win rate has actually gone up, if you think about it, since the engage meta came in. So for Zary, the tip is this: if you are scared of getting ganked, especially in the early game, obviously, right, because this is when you are weakest, then hug a close wall and get ready to E out of it. Your E is on a very long cooldown, right, in the early game. So we want to make sure that when we use it, we are using it when we know where the enemy jungler is. But if we do get ganked, we have it there ready. Think about holding a bit of terrain and have your index finger or whatever finger you have on your E button ready to use it, and you won't die. Now moving to the mid lane here, there are 4 champions just like the bot lane. The first of these is Cassiopeia. Now I know that Sarah's Embrace is getting nerfed next patch. Oh my goodness, FF. The AP is going down, you're losing a bit of HP. But what is making Cass OP at the moment? Well, Sarah is one of them. Okay. But when you run something like Barrier, right, and then you have Seraphs and the shield this is now giving you, and then you have like Gargoyle Stoneplate is your 3rd item. So whether you're getting like Roa or Leandries or Everfrost, depends on the enemy team composition, right, is your mythic item, then you're getting Seraphs, then you're getting Gargoyles. Not only do you still have amazing DPS because you're Cassio, but you are unkillable. The shields you have, you can legit just frontline as this champion, even though you're meant to be like some sort of controlled DPS mage type champion. It doesn't matter at the moment. The champion is super broken, and that's why she's even getting blind picked in pro play. She's that good. But yeah, controlling your mana early game is is key. So don't just spam your Q when it's off cooldown. We want quality, not quantity, and you can take that tip and apply it to lots of mid laners or champions. So try to Q when your opponent is going for a last hit, or when they're CC'd by a teammate, or when your opponent themselves is like locked into an animation. So it might be like a Zerath using his Q maybe. So pay attention to those things. Now moving on, we have Fizz. Now Fizz is getting some huge buffs, guys, in 13.5. The main one being to your ease mana cost, which means, I think anyway, the Rocket Belt Fizz, you can probably finally do this instead of going mana mythics like Ludens. It's really frustrating, right? Like, it just feels like a cuck, because back in the day, you used to go Proto Belt, and I'm sure if you played against Proto Belt Fizz, you know how frustrating and OP this champion can be with the extra damage from not only the Rocket Belt kind of active, but yeah, just more mobility, right? There's another thing to worry about. But the tip here, guys, for Fizz, when the enemy champion you're against, you know they have no escape or flash, using your Q with your ultimate is huge. This means your Chum the Waters will be disguised as part of your Q animation. It's very hard to react to. Just keep in mind as well, try to, use your ultimate at max range, because this will deal more damage. And yes, that's what we want right on this champion. We want to amplify our damage output. That means more one-shots, that means more kills, and more snowballs, and more wins. Now, Irelia is the only attack damage champion here in the mid lane, and I'm sure we all know why. If you're going something like Mertreads, Borg, Shieldbow, Wit's End, you're unkillable, especially in the mid lane and in the jungle as well at the moment. Lots of AP champions are getting played, and it makes you unkillable. But yeah, one tip for Irelia is to try to E while you Q. This is what separates the best Irelias like a Rel King from everyone else. They will almost do this in like one animation. So as your blade surging towards a last hittable minion, use both parts of your E on the enemy champion. But one important thing, and it's kind of like the Cassio tip, try to use your Q at the same time, right? So if you've got a last hittable minion, as the enemy champion has one themselves as well. They will move forward, you can Q, EE, and bang. You're probably going to get that champion's flash. Now, the final champion in the mid lane, guys, this is Vladimir. And the reason Vlad is here is because of the Cosmic Drive buff. The AP on this going up to 90 is just massive for Vlad. Like, AP is probably the most important stat for you, procs your passive, right? And it also means that you can actually one-shot people without doing too much in the mid to late game. But the tip on Vladimir is not to skill an ability at level 2 or level 3 until you know where the enemy jungler is. Because sometimes you might get ganked in the early game, yeah? And you need your W, your pull, to escape that gank. But when you know, like, the enemy jungler's ganking top, you can put a point in your E. You can put an extra point in your Q at level 3 if you want to. So 2 points in Q at level 3 is fine. Your early game, though, is your big weakness, right? So dying early on, it will mean you will get snowballed on. So just pay attention to where the enemy jungler is as far as your skill order goes. Now, moving into the top lane. Just like AD carries and just like the mid lane, we have 4 champions. The first of these is Darius. I don't want to talk too much about why Darius is OP. Durability meta, it's still here. Darius loves it. Your W is an auto attack reset. That's what I want you to really remember. Lots of new Darius players will just run in there without auto attacking before using their W auto attack, and it's a loss of damage. It's a loss of DPS, Conqueror stacking, Hemorrhage stacking. This is really important, right? So when you're playing Darius, guys, try to auto attack before your W, because your W, when you press it after an auto attack, it resets it. So you actually get out more damage a lot quicker, and also because you're using your W so quickly, you'll get this cooldown up quicker as well. And remember, it's only on a 5-seconder, so in the early game, this can be really deadly. I mean, throughout a game, it's deadly, but yeah, make sure you remember this. W's an auto attack reset. Moving on, we have Jax, another bruiser fighter. Now, one trick on Jax in the early game, which is when you are most vulnerable, is to stun the minion wave with your helicopter as you're disengaging. Most of the time, you will fight the enemy champion and use your counter strike, but inexperienced Jax players will often forget to disengage, and they will get caught out, right, in the enemy minion wave, and you'll cop so much aggro. So as your E is about to come to an end, create a bit of space from the enemy champion while moving back through the minions. This will reset their aggro, and you will cop 0 damage from that point. This makes your trading as efficient as possible. Of course, you can extend that trade if you have lethal tempo and you think you have kill threat, but most of the time you just want to be backing out in the early game after using your counter strike. Now, one champion who's going to destroy Jax in 13.5, well, I think so anyway because of the buffs, this is Kennen. And for Kennen in 13.5, you are going to be dominating the top lane. The buffs to your Q, the AP ratio, and the cooldown going to be huge, and also your electrical surge dealing more damage to minions going to be really nice for your wave clip. But for Kennen, in the mid to late game, looking for flanks is key, but do this, guys, with a red sweeper, and also, if you can afford them and have space for them, a control ward as well. You don't want to play Kennen waving at the enemy champions in front of them saying, hey guys, here I am, you don't have to worry about me. No. We want to be flanking. We want to be operating in fog of war, getting behind the enemy champions, using your flash, using your ultimate, using your rocket pelt. GG, well played next patch if you can do this. Now, if you do want to play a pure tank in the top lane, guys, the best of these by far is Scion at the moment. Now, if you have TP on Scion, think about ulting bot or mid at a base after you've recalled, right? Because your TP is going to allow you to TP straight back to the top lane, so you're going to minimize that golden experience loss, but you gain something elsewhere on the map. Lots of people as well just won't be pinging this, your enemy top laner, so you can use this to your advantage. Now, moving into the jungle. There's only one jungler here, this being J4, who I think is the most versatile jungler at the moment. Whether you're playing Engage, whether you're playing Peel, J4, doesn't really matter, but one big tip for J4 is to flash ult, or just ult, and EQ out of your Cataclysm. Now, of course, most J4s are going to EQ in, right, and then use their ultimate, which is good, but the issue there is, like, if you don't have stopwatch, or if you're, like, not really tanky or ahead, you're probably just going to die, right, and trade your life. So try to use your ultimate and save your EQ. This means you can use your Cataclysm and EQ out of it while keeping the enemy champions trapped inside of it. Now, the final role, guys, of course, to talk about, this is the support role, and this champion you can play in the mid lane. This is Annie. Now, for Annie, the 3-stack threat, I call it. It's almost like when you play, well, I don't even know if there's another champion like it. Maybe Irelia is like it, okay? So when you're on 3 stacks, your passive, when you use your Q on Irelia, you get to 4 stacks, right? You get that extra attack speed, that extra damage. It's really, really scary, right? Same with Annie. At 3 stacks, what I want you guys to do is to use your E to get to 4 stacks to activate that passive, so the stun, and then you can use your Q and W straight away, right? Lots of kind of like low elo players won't expect this, and it's a great way to get kills in your lane, whether it's mid or bot lane. Now, the final champion, guys, who I think is honestly going to be like the most broken in 13.5, and I don't want to talk about it too much, this is going to be the new Yumi. And honestly, the tip for Yumi is just locking her in. Like, that's literally all you have to do. The fact that you now have a targeted ultimate, I mean, at the moment anyway, when you press R, it just goes in like one direction, right? And we ain't talking the band, but the new Yumi ultimate is going to be targeted based on where your cursor is. So it will just follow where your cursor is. That is just ridiculous. I don't know like who is balancing the game, but whoever it is, please just make Yumi targetable. It'll be so much healthier for the game and more enjoyable. She won't be picked and banned. It is complete AIDS to play against. So yeah, get me out, but she will be really OP, so that's why I've got to include her in this video. And those were the 15 most broken champions, guys, and a couple of tips for each of them for 13.5. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our future season 13 uploads and all the tips I'm going to give you on our future videos. And yeah, this has been Eggs. Peace.